You always get people back in the day, everybody would want to open a restaurant just so they could meet women, do whatever it is. That's why a lot of them fail. They just don't understand. This is a very tricky business.
Sitting in class and watching people teach me something that I didn't really care about wasn't for me. So I can definitely relate with you, what you're saying, just boredom and wanting to learn by your hands and actually doing it.
I mean, I worked for 38 years and I never made over $100,000. I knew that I wanted to pay better. When I started Condado 10 years ago, I was paying $20 to kitchen guys.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Beyond the Business. Today we got a very special guest, Joe Kahn. Joe is the founder and chief innovation officer at Condado Tacos. His passion for hospitality started at just 15 years old, working at Sizzlers and then Pizza Hut. Along the way, he learned to bartend and earned his first management position at the Outpost, a local Chicago venue. After decades of working in all aspects of the restaurant industry, Joe took the plunge to open his own restaurant, which failed. But instead of turning in his apron, he then learned his mistakes, borrowed money from his wife's 401k, and founded Condado Tacos with several business partners. His focus on creating clean and craveable tacos in an environment that encourages creativity and community was a hit. By 2026, there will be 100 Condado Tacos restaurants. What's the secret to Joe's success? Treating people well and really great tacos. Joe, that's quite the bio. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Excited to be here. What an intro. That sounds
got it right from your website.
Sounds like a guy that's been through a lot. But
yeah, I'm excited to dig in here. And like we do on this show, Beyond the Business, we're going to really dig into what led you to where you are today, starting from a young age. So we can kind of start there from your childhood. You know, where were you raised? What was your childhood like? Let's go way back.
Cool. Yeah, I've had a very interesting life. I was born in the Bahamas.
Wow.
Yeah, my father and grandfather started a company that did like little shopping plazas in Nassau. And so anyways, we were there for a few years. It did not survive. It didn't go well for them. But after that, we moved to Guatemala, believe it or not. Yeah, spent a few years in Guatemala. I think the love of tortillas probably came from there. In Guatemala, the women would walk by with baskets on their heads with tortillas that were freshly cooked on the stone. Wow. Yeah, and
how old were you when you moved?
I think I was maybe 4.
Okay,
4 or so. Yeah, and they would sell it for like I think it was a quarter or 50 cents, and then she'd spread butter on it. Wow. And I'm like, wow, this is fantastic. So then from Guatemala, my father and grandfather had another company that failed as well. We have a lot of those in our family, but we had to move back. Unfortunately, we were stranded in Guatemala. So somehow we managed to get out and we moved to Canada for a little bit, about a year. Wow. And then a little stint in Seattle for about a couple of years, and then Chicago.
Wow.
Chicago's where I ended up for the majority of my life until Ohio.
And when you moved from Guatemala to Canada, you went from Guatemala to Canada?
Yeah, correct.
What age were you then?
Oh, gosh, I was maybe, 8, 9.
Got it.
Wow. Yeah.
And then from Canada, Seattle?
Seattle for a couple of years.
And then Chicago for a while.
Yeah. Chicago when I was probably 12.
Do you remember like when you were younger, like did that just feel normal, like moving from country to country, or like what was it like from a mental aspect? Do you have those memories as far as that? It just feel normal.
It felt normal to me.
Yeah.
In fact, I moved a ton during my regular life as well.
Yeah.
And my stint all the way through the restaurant industry. But yeah, it always felt normal. I didn't know that that's not what you're supposed to do. So, but it was exciting. It was exciting to be able to see all the different things in life that most people had not experienced.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Who was it you were moving with throughout that time?
So it was my father.
Got it.
So my father and my grandfather. Interesting story. My grandfather was a very smart man. Unfortunately, he was also a thief. And every time he would start a company, my father would join him and his brothers, and he would just steal all the money. But it kept happening over and over. So we followed him from, the Bahamas to Guatemala, and all over the place. And he unfortunately was a great guy, but he was also never could settle on one thing. Always wanted to be
Bouncing
bigger
around.
than what he had, and he was a very smart man. I mean, he founded banks, he founded all these different companies, but he was just never satisfied with one thing and doing it well and making it big. My father, on the other hand, after 4 or 5 different times of getting burned from my grandfather, finally started his own company. And I think I got the hard work and the keep your head down and keep going from him because he started his company, and until he retired, he had the same company, and it was just him and his brother, and he made a good living for himself.
Right.
And finally ended up selling it to his brother, 10 years ago. He's 70, 75, I believe, 76.
Is that in Chicago then?
Yeah.
Okay,
Chicago.
so you guys settled. He stopped chasing his dad around.
He
that.
stopped chasing his father
So
around.
Canada was the last place when you guys were with your. Okay,
Right. Exactly.
Talk about like what you learned. You said you learned from your dad as far as like sticking with it. One
Yeah.
thing. Did you take things and learn from your grandfather as well, who obviously had that flaw?
I think I learned to dream really big from my grandfather, because I mean, every time that I would, see him, in my mind, it was a brand new venture. Hey, Joe, we're gonna do all these Howard Johnson motels, and that's the next big thing. Or, hey, Joe, we bought a radio station. We bought a
This is
radio
from your
station.
grandpa?
Yeah, this is
Yeah,
from
yeah.
my grandfather. You bought a radio station? Yeah, we bought a radio station. And then all of a sudden, there's 10,000 CDs laying around the house, but then the radio never,
Yeah.
flourished. And you're like, and then it went out of business or something like that. So I learned to dream from him, but I learned the actual work ethic from my father. My father had a tremendous work ethic, and I as well have a very healthy work ethic myself. So I learned to dream from my grandfather, and I learned how to do things properly from my father.
And stepping back, are you the only child?
No, I have a sister
You have a
who's
sister.
2.5 years older than me.
Got it.
She was with you guys the whole time traveling.
On and off. She lived with my mother for a little bit.
And what was your relationship like growing up throughout all that traveling with your grandpa and your father?
Well, I love my grandfather. It's unfortunate he was such a thief, but I loved him, and I think everybody in the family did. So, I mean, I had a good relationship, but I think, after a while, my father stopped talking to him in the last few years of his life. And then when he was dying, they got together and everything was forgiven. But, so unfortunate.
Got it. And you got to Chicago, what age again?
Gosh, 11, 12?
11 or 12?
Yep.
So going from there, that was your first time. Did you feel like settled in there and that was your home?
Never fully. I mean, I think I felt more settled in my late 20s when I was still there, when I lived on my own, when I kind of, had some success in the industry and a little bit of a name for myself in Chicago. I think I felt a little settled then.
That 11 through like 18 years old, were you helping your dad with the business at all, or like what was your learning like in that, like outside of school and everything like that?
Yeah.
Were you learning stuff entrepreneur wise?
I think just from watching, but
Yeah.
he never really, my father is a very quiet man, so he would never say anything. My grandfather, on the other hand, told me everything. I mean, it was all about, business this, business that. I don't know if I truly understood anything back then, but it was, he was always about business. It was always something.
And in your bio, so we're in Chicago now. We're going through 11 plus to 18.
Right.
We'll kind of focus. What you said you had some in your bio. You had some jobs at Sizzlers, and I think it said
Yeah.
Pizza Hut, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
What else were you doing then, hobbies wise? Like once you got to Chicago, you're kind of settled in or whatever. You're living there long term, at least we could say. What
Yeah.
were your hobbies? What was your life like there?
gosh, besides friends and just doing the regular deviant stuff that any teenager would do, probably smoking a lot of pot, and I think that was probably my biggest hobby back then. Some sports, wrestling. I did some basketball and some other stuff, but school really wasn't for me.
Yeah.
And I know we'll talk about that later in life. I come from the school of learning on the job, I guess.
Yeah.
How were you guys living then? Was it like, were you guys not well, were you guys financially stable at that point? I know you had some tough times in the other countries. Where were you guys like financially in that point?
I think, middle class.
Yeah.
My father was always middle class. There were some times where, before that, I was shopping at Goodwill and all that kind of stuff, just like every kid probably has done at some point in their life. But I think it was just like a middle class. I don't remember really wanting much. I remember every year you'd get like, I don't know, $200 for clothes.
Yeah.
I'm much older than you guys, but back then $200 for school clothes was like, that was a lot.
Get the job done.
Yeah.
Got the job done until I got my own job, and then which we'll talk about, I'm sure. But we were okay.
Were those high school jobs just make a couple bucks there, or what was kind of the mindset, or was it like your dad told you like you need to get a job, son?
I always had this desire to work, and I think that came from my grandfather. My grandfather was very showy. I remember he showed me a $10,000 bill once. I was like, $10,000 bill? And it was a real $10,000 bill.
Yeah.
He just had it in his office, and I'm like, great, wow. So I think, I always thought about and dreamed about doing something, making money somehow. I think it just came naturally to fall into the restaurant business.
So you were working at your first job with Sizzler?
That's right, Sizzler as
How
a
old were you?
busboy. I think I was 15.
Were you a good employee?
Was I a good employee? I was a great employee. Listen, my first day, I remember I walked with like, God, who knows, 15, 17 bucks, something like that. Crazy. I was like, this is it for me. This is what I want to do. And I told my dad, and he goes, you're going to be a garbage man. Don't do that. Don't go into the restaurant business. Back then, a garbage man was, now if you get a garbage man job, it comes with, a salary and, years of security, I would think. But back then it was that or a ditch digger is what he would say to me. And, but I was hooked. I was hooked on that 15 bucks, man. I was like, wow, quick cash.
Yeah.
I get to talk to people. This is amazing. This is what I like to do.
So you kind of saw your future from that first job, you think?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think I liked the fast money, and I liked the pace, and I liked the camaraderie with everybody in the restaurant business. I just seemed to fit in a little bit with them versus, I didn't really fit in high school because, well, I skipped most of high school, if we're going to be honest. And, I was very smart. I actually dropped out of high school and, went back and got my GED, but high school wasn't for me. I was very uninterested. The teachers, didn't know about ADHD or anything else, and so I couldn't be taught. I knew more at any given point because I would just read.
Right.
I was such a huge reader.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Like anything I can get my hands on. And so I learned everything really on my own. Everything in business up to this point has been through just, the learning curve that you go through. So anyways.
And do you remember anything specific at Sizzler that happened that you took with you today? Any like lessons learned or stories that you remember that you brought with you today?
Well, I don't know how many lessons I really learned besides, the camaraderie of working with people in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
But, I don't think there was any specific skills that I picked up besides maybe some customer service aspects back then and how to turn a corner. I remember just the word corner.
Right. But you learned how restaurants worked.
Yeah,
essentially.
of course.
Your first one in.
Yeah. And I got really lucky too because I went from busboy, and then I think they had a hard time finding servers. So when I was 16 or something, they turned me into a server, and so I was making even more money. I was like, wow, this is great. I'd rather pick up shifts than go to school. Let's just do this. And I don't think there was a whole lot of laws back then. And
Yeah.
if they were being broken, I probably broke them and signed my father's signature. I knew it very well from all the checks that I would take from my dad and forge his signature for some extra cash back in the day. Yeah.
You can probably relate quite a bit, Dan, as far as like high school. I know you had football to like keep you eligible essentially, but it would probably have been you if you didn't have football, honestly.
Yeah, I just didn't. Sitting in class and
Yeah.
watching people teach me something that I didn't really care about
Right.
wasn't for me.
Yeah.
I have so many memories of just being so bored. And I graduated high school and I stood in, but after high school I went and did a gap year over in overseas in Israel and
Oh,
Europe
okay.
and traveled
Nice.
around and stuff. So I can definitely relate with you what you're saying, just
Yeah.
boredom and wanting to learn by your hands and actually doing.
That's right.
And I still do that today. That's how you learn.
Yeah.
And you even mentioned you're in the kitchen most of the time in your innovation kitchen.
Yeah.
And we'll get
Yeah.
into that here soon, but I'm
Awesome.
excited to dive into that. And transitioning from Sizzler for you, at that point when you're a server, right?
Yeah.
So you go from busboy to server. What percentage of your life is like school versus hobbies outside of work and school versus the restaurant?
It was all restaurant.
Okay.
Yeah, I focused completely on that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Even like the books you read and stuff, was that around that stuff?
Well, no. I mean, yes and no. But you know what? Art is my thing, right? Like all this art I couldn't possibly do. I have my own style, but I was very heavily into, and still am, art. And so I'm an acrylic painter, and I do stuff for myself. I've actually given away one piece, and that was to a guy that works with us named Chris Mendoza. But I've never sold a piece. I've never done any of that. And I was very into that. So very into arts if I wasn't working in the restaurant business. So that's what I really focused on.
What about art? Like, did you make any art or just observing? And
No, yeah. I mean, I always painted. I painted back then in
Got it.
some form. I did some form of art, whether it was photography or something else. I was always very much into art.
So you said you could do the art that we see around us, or you could?
No,
Okay.
no. I'm very.
yeah.
You've heard of Banksy or
Yeah.
not Banksy? Sorry. Gosh, I can't remember his name. Basquiat. Basquiat. So Basquiat is very like childlike.
Yeah.
When he draws, and you can see that in his work. And so I'm very, there's an actual term for it, but very much like Basquiat. So it's sort of angry at the same time as very childlike
Yeah.
work. So, and I never know what I'm going to have. I'll sit on a painting and I'll spend, 5, 6, 7 hours on a piece, and I'll do that
Wow.
for an entire week, and then I'll just destroy it and then redo something else. And eventually it turns out to be something that like just kind of comes to me in the painting, So I'm very obsessive about my paintings the same way I am with the industry. I'm very obsessive and
Yeah.
focused
Yeah.
on stuff like that.
What does that do for you when you're painting? Like, what is it some sort of therapy? Do you feel like you're just in it and you're focused and it gets your mind off? Like, what do you experience when you're painting?
What do I experience? I experience like I don't know, some sort of a freedom. I get lost when I paint, and I just want to like impress people with it, right? Even though I'll never sell it. I barely ever show it to anybody except for my wife. I have a dummy account that I put my artwork just to have some sort of validation for myself. And if it does well on the dummy Instagram, then I feel like I'm kind of validated. When I get some good,
Interesting.
when I get some good comments, sometimes bad comments, but it is what it is.
Got it. And going back to after post, so you had the busboy server job,
Yeah.
Sizzlers, and then you moved to Pizza Hut, and then you got your first management position at the Outpost.
You know, I'm trying to think. So I moved to Boulder for a couple of years. I followed a girl. I came back. The whole time I was working in the industry.
Got it.
I think I got when I was 20, I got to bartend illegally, of course. I don't know why everything was illegal back in those days. So I got to bartend, and then from bartending, I went to Colorado for a couple of years, worked in some restaurants, came back, and then that was my first management position at the Outpost.
And that's a recognized place in Chicago?
It was there for 20 plus years, I
Got it.
think. So yeah, I was right there in Wrigleyville.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So it was a pretty hip spot. The restaurant did very, very well. Kevin O'Donnell, the owner, was an awesome dude. I think he opened a restaurant so he could meet women, and that's fine. A lot of guys do that. But
I didn't know that was a thing.
yeah, well, they all do, I'm sure.
Wow.
Yeah, you always get people back in the day. Everybody would want to open a restaurant just so they could do whatever, meet women, do whatever it is. But that's why a lot of them fail.
Yeah.
Obviously, because you don't
Wrong
have pros.
purpose.
Yeah, the wrong purpose, and they just don't understand. This is a very tricky business. I mean, consistency, the hard work that you have to put in, the motivation you have to give people, the buy-in. If you don't have any of that, you're toast right from the beginning. And then talking about location, like this location here should be doing, $4 million, but unfortunately, wrong location. Or bad signage. This is a good location. Bad signage will end up getting you. So, yeah.
Interesting. And so, what was your position at the Outpost? So you had bartending experience, then you had server experience. What did you do at the Outpost?
Actually, I kind of had bartending experience. I would work like service bar. I worked at a Mexican place, Southwest Tex-Mex called Coyote Joe's in Chicago. And it was like 2 or 3 different things that you would make. So the guy that hired me, Kevin O'Donnell, he hired me because I had long hair and he thought I looked cool. I was like, okay, that's weird.
How long we talking? Like down?
Yeah, we're talking like, well, it was longer. It was that grunge era, and then you cut it off to the bob, and then you wear the dumb ponytail that goes up there, and then eventually cut it all off. The guy was so pissed. Kevin was so pissed. He's like, you shaved your head. I'm like, I don't know. I didn't know you hired me for my long hair. But he hired me to bartend, and I completely lied that I knew everything. And this was like all wine, martinis. I mean, talk about hard menu to make. And so I bought a little book, or I stole the book from my sister, I think it was. And when somebody would ask me for a drink, I'd be like, okay, hold on. I'd go like that. I'm like, okay, I got it. So totally faked my way through, but ended up doing well. Thank God it was mostly wine and crafts, and I bluffed my way through doing, that until I actually had some skills. But then, like a month later, the guy trusted me enough to, give me the keys to the place, and he really taught me the how to check out, how to look at a sales report, do that kind of stuff. So the beginning, the evolution of that started. My journey into the restaurant business kind of started there. So,
But when you went in there, you knew. What do you mean by the keys exactly? Actually,
literally a key. Hey, you're the lockup guy. So now,
Got it.
Oh,
okay.
This is on your way to managing for me. If
Yeah.
you can show me that.
That's
you
like
can,
the first step before to get your trust.
Right.
essentially.
Exactly.
Is that still a thing today?
No, not necessarily, but I guess I've grown on such a big scale. I would think it's pretty common in most of the restaurant industry. I know that that's what I did with our first one.
Right.
Finally, after 2 months, I finally trusted Chris Mendoza. I'm like, okay, you're the guy, right? You're the guy. And then you obsessively check the cameras to make sure that he locked up and did the
everything.
code and all that kind of stuff and Z'd out. And he did. And so,
Got it.
but yeah, that's the start of that. And then, after a couple of months, Kevin really kind of taught me what he could. and I kind of took that and started managing for him and writing schedules and closing and doing that kind of stuff. And I think I truly ended up loving the business even more so at that point, because I knew what was possible. And it was the fine dining era in Chicago, so it was all the Charlie Trotters and all these guys that were like chefs that would chase you around with knives and all that kind of stuff. My buddy Ted Sisma, who was a very well-known chef in Chicago, not as well-known as like Charlie Trotter or anything like that, but pretty well-known. He would chase me around with a knife. It's like, don't ever change my food. If a guest doesn't want this, tell them to go f themselves. Basically, all that kind of stuff. And every time I'd be like, there's an allergy, you'd just be so fearful. And he would throw pans and plates and all this and chase you around with a knife. And you're like, whoa. Yeah. But it was intense. Yeah, it was intense. But, a different era for sure.
Yep.
Back then, I love that I went through it, because what it really taught me was how to interact with guests and how to interact well with the guests, right?
At the highest level.
At the highest level.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So going from there, when did you know that you like wanted to own a restaurant? Is that this whole time that you're working at Outpost Pizza Hut?
I think no. I think I knew once I hit the Outpost. Had a couple of years under my belt. I was like, I got the keys. I'm managing. I'm running something. Other restaurateurs are coming over trying to steal me. I'm like, I think I got something here. I think I got something. And so I knew that I wanted to be in the business and open my own place eventually. And I had little fits and starts and never could really do it. But I really fell in love with the whole making a concept and what I wanted to do at that time. So I had a couple opportunities to consult a couple years after the Outpost, when I made a little name for myself in Chicago. And when I say there are people that just have a lot of money and want to open restaurants, that's what I mean. Because who the hell is going to let a 24-year-old kid make a concept for you? And I actually did that with a wine bar and then a sushi place as well. So people were actually, they both failed, of course, and the sushi place didn't even get started. I can tell you about that if you want to hear it, but I did get to design it. That's when I knew, and that's when I always tried to pitch my ideas to as many people. I mean, I was obsessive and obviously would just ask random people, or regulars of mine that I had at wherever, because there was so much money in that .com era that everybody wanted to open something, right? So I tried to open a place all the way until I was 38. Obviously, it didn't happen for me.
Was that all consulting, or is that actually like you trying to open? When you consult, are you getting any equity in the restaurant as well, or what does that look like?
You're referring to the wine bar and sushi?
Yeah.
Yeah, the wine bar. Well, the wine bar called Red back then. No equity. I actually ended up getting fired from there. I got fired a lot. I learned very valuable lessons, but I got fired from there. I consulted and at another place called Docks River North, I think it was, and went in there and same thing, ended up getting fired. That one taught me a very valuable lesson, which was, it taught me that I am not the most important thing, in my opinion, isn't the most important thing, and that other people around you should have some sort of say. And what that has taught me in this business is, in Condado, everybody has a voice at Condado. Doesn't mean we're going to do it, but I've taken these lessons that I learned, and I got fired from that job too because of that, saying this is the only way and that's it. and no other way. I mean, I can't believe that I didn't get fired like 2 weeks in, because I would tell the owner, this is, we're going to be this instead of this. And I think after, 6 months or a year or whatever, he finally went, no, this is my place. So, I took those lessons, and obviously, I apply them to Condado. But everybody has a voice here at Condado, always. And it doesn't mean we're going to go with your idea. But I've said this since day one of my other former restaurant company that I built in this one, and it still holds true to this day. In the innovation kitchen, a lot of people, have ideas, and I try everything that I can. So that taught me a very big lesson. But yeah, I never really got equity in a place, and if I did, it didn't amount to anything because they all failed.
Right.
Yeah.
And how was that transition like, going from all these different spots and finally opening up your own Condado? What happened in between then for you to finally make that step forward?
I met my wife, who knew a guy, because I had tried my whole time. I mean, I tried to do 20 different concepts, right? I even remember right before the .com era, and then later, but I was starting that sushi place, and I was supposed to get, a certain amount of equity and blah, blah, blah. And it blew up like halfway through. And
The deal blew up, or
Oh,
what?
yeah. She signed the lease, and then I remember we started construction, and then it was just done. She's like, I have no more
So they
money.
never hit the market.
No, it never even hit the market.
Ran
It was
out of
a
money?
Oh, yeah, right away. Yeah, she went from millionaire to nothing with the .com. I was working. I know, it's so sad.
Wow.
I'm sure she.
That is a valuable lesson learned.
Oh,
I'm sure
that
if you
is-
saw that whole thing through.
Oh, listen, I saw so many things. I was working at Smith & Walensky's at the time as a server in Chicago. And I remember talking to, this is funny and sad at the same time, talking to a coworker of mine. And he's like, I'm going to be a millionaire. I go, what? Yeah, millionaire. I go, wow. He goes, yeah, on paper, this is how much I'm worth. I went, $1.4 million. I'm like, wow. And I just remember the next week when it all crashed, I said, how'd you do? Are you okay? And he goes, it's all gone. All gone. And guess what?
Wow.
25 years later, I went back. He's still there.
Wow.
Crazy,
Is he a millionaire again?
I don't know. I doubt it.
That's crazy.
Yeah. But yeah, it taught me a lot of lessons, that it comes and goes very quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that transition, you met your wife. When was this? What era? What were you doing?
So I was 38. I'm 52 now. 38, if that adds up, something like that. And 52 or 53 coming up. I met my wife. I was working at a great job, Edison's in Tremont, Ohio, which
Yeah.
was a very cool neighborhood. Had no plans to ever leave. Just thought, I'm going to be this single bartender. I loved my job. It was actually, I did get a little equity-based pay off of that I got like 6% of sales. If over a certain point, I think he was doing like $1.2 million. Just a neighborhood bar. And I turned it around and did massive sales. And I think we got, over $2 million. So I made the most money I've ever made.
Wow.
Yeah, and my wife, and a great job. I loved it. And it was kind of like I took what I learned there was I tried my people skills, and I did very well with that. And ambiance and music was very important to me. And this bar was, an amazing bar, Edison's, so it had all this memorabilia. There's only 2 old men that ever sat in that place. They never had anybody come in, but the neighborhood was so vibrant. And I was like, I know I can turn this around. Anyways, I was working there, and my wife walked in one day and got a pizza, and I thought, wow, she's cute. And so I asked to buy her a drink, and she's like, sorry, I have a boyfriend. I'm like, okay, well, you live in the neighborhood? Yeah. Great, I'll see you around. Well, she left that day and got dumped by her boyfriend. that
Good
same
timing.
night.
Wow.
Good timing, right? And so she came back every day for the next 4 or 5 days, I guess, to get a pizza that she didn't eat, that she threw away just to see if I was there. 'Cause she's like, oh, that cute guy, blah, blah, blah. And so eventually, obviously, she came in and I got her number and that's history. But she introduced me to a guy that this was right before Condado. This was my other company. I'm sure do you guys know about the other company that won't be named? No? Mm-mm. It's a similar,
I saw it. Yeah.
similar chain.
Yeah.
That has had, I don't know if they've had as much success as us. They're not quite the same size as us, but some pretty good success.
north.
Yeah, up north. And so anyway, she knew this guy that had a building, and I knew it was going out of business. I'm the great predictor of restaurants. I can tell if you walk into a restaurant how long they're going to be there. I'd like to say, we'll see. But I'm pretty good at that, and I'm like, this guy's going under. Like, it's just an old dated concept. Nobody's ever in here. It's filthy. But anyway, she knew this guy, and he owned the building and the liquor license. People went out of business. He took it over, and then I approached him through my wife, since they were friends, and rode around in his truck, and then, talked a little bit, and then went to the space, and I'm like, this is the vision that I have for what I'd like to do. And he goes, nope, this place needs Mexican. And I go, okay, so you're building, we're going to be partners, I'm going to be a good partner. Give me a day, let me think about it, and let me think about what I want to do. I went home, got really inspired by tacos, of course, and came up with the business up north and this business, which are kind of the same because this is the evolution of what I started. And in about 4 hours, my wife was just typing. I was just vomiting everything. And if you look at it today, it's still like 99% what I had on paper.
Wow.
It was crazy.
And this is Condado you're talking about.
No, this
is the other one.
The
Okay.
other one.
Yeah.
Condado, when that partnership didn't work
Oh,
out.
so you built there.
Yeah.
That was your design.
Yeah, that was my
99%,
concept.
he said.
Wow.
Of
Yeah.
today.
That's what I didn't know, but I knew. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. We had a big falling out, and obviously,
Yeah.
you can see in the papers he sued me, and then,
I saw that.
we ended up winning, and then
Went to federal court.
that's the second one.
Wow.
He sued me a couple of times. The first one had enough to restart, which I restarted in Columbus, and that was Condado Tacos, and that was 10 years ago, almost
Got it.
11.
And how long
now.
after that was it for the first concept that you made? The one up north that we're not
Yeah.
going to mention. How
Right.
long after that did Condado come?
It seems like a lifetime, but no, it was, I think I opened it, time I opened Condado, it was about 2 years into that, but I only
Got it.
lasted about 14 months
Got it.
there and was kicked out of the
14 months.
business.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that was that guy who showed you that building. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
We don't know anything about lawsuits, do we, Ron?
Those are so much fun.
it's the worst part of business.
Yeah, it really is. It
It's
really is.
energy draining.
Energy
And money.
draining, money, for both. Nobody
Feels good
ever
to win,
wins,
though.
even
Feels
if you
good to
win.
Yeah.
Well, you feel validated,
Yeah,
right? Because I
yeah.
won both times.
Yeah.
You feel validated, but
You're
then
like, I
you're
am,
like,
yeah.
but then you're like, okay, but I'm
tough.
also out millions.
Spend so much money. Yeah.
It's the
Time.
attorneys are the only ones that win.
Yeah, that's correct.
So you went from there to Condado. And Condado's, was that just you, Condado?
No, I had two other partners, but they were very silent partners. They taught me everything I know in business. They taught me to dream even bigger than I
Wow.
was dreaming. And they knew zilch about the restaurant business. Zero. Still probably don't
Yeah.
at all. Maybe a little bit. But, and they were great partners to me. Amazing partners. They own a small piece of the companies still, currently.
Nice.
So, yeah, I got together with those two, and, they knew of my previous place and liked it. thought that, you know, if it worked there, it would work. I pitched Columbus because it's a big melting pot for,
And the other was in Cleveland.
the other was in Cleveland.
Yeah.
Big melting pot for everyone. So all the restaurateurs that want to scale will usually come to Columbus for their first one because it's so diverse. And they say if you can make it in Columbus, you have a good shot of making it all over the United States. So that's why what started there, Wendy's started there.
Yeah.
You know,
Big
quite a
testing
few.
market. I've heard
Big
that.
test
So
market,
that's actually
yeah.
a real thing. That's
Yeah,
not just a
that
rumor.
is.
Okay,
There's a
I always
lot.
wondered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So did they see you? Because like the way you're talking, like you're not, I don't want to say restaurant genius or something, but like
Yeah.
you understood the restaurant business. Did they see you for that? As far as like a lot of other people, it seems like we're kind of trying to do both things, and like you were the restaurant guy, they were the business person and the money.
Yeah.
Did they kind of see you for what you were as far in terms of that?
I think they did. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think they did. I mean, they knew that I was the industry expert. They believed in the concept, and they believed in my. I think they were starting to believe in my work ethic because I'm the kind of guy. If you go into business, or if I'm working with you, I pick up your call right away. I text you back right away. I don't let a minute go. So they started feeling more and more confident.
There you go.
And you had a proven concept at this point.
And I had a proven concept. Yeah.
How different was this concept than the first concept?
Not very different at all. I mean, I adopted the color. I adopted, you know, the things that I think are better that help me scale, right? Meaning the kitchen and what we do and sorry, I lost the plot there. What's
Yeah, I can't even remember what I asked now.
The differences in the two
The
concepts.
differences in the two
Oh
concepts.
yeah,
is what
I
we're
mean,
doing.
this is just an evolve. This is evolved a little bit from what it was.
Got it.
You know, both are very simple.
Yeah.
You know, this is all a business on people, and it doesn't matter what it is. It's based off of people, and that's how you grow and scale.
Right.
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 To me, consistency, a lot of hard work, all that kind of stuff. But
Yeah.
yeah.
And if you guys
So,
aren't watching and you guys are listening, tune into the video because the artwork in here is
it is
phenomenal.
amazing.
I mean, the colors and everything going
really
on.
cool.
It's unlike any other restaurant I've seen,
Yeah.
which is so unique to it. And it just has that friendly atmosphere that you walk in and you just feel it's a friendly,
Yeah.
open atmosphere.
Yeah.
And I wanted to touch on that because somewhere I saw about your culture and your relationship. I think it said how strong your relationships are with your employees.
Yeah.
It was an article someone wrote, maybe Columbus or something. But I wanted to touch on that. Like, how did you build that culture within the company? Especially your goal by 2026 is to hit 100 stores. Like, how do
Right.
you? Is that something you instilled like on purpose, or did it come naturally based on your personality?
I mean, I knew when I started the previous company in Cleveland and this one, I knew when I had my chance, I knew exactly how I would treat people because honestly, this business is not kind
Right.
to restaurateurs or employees that work for them, and you end up just being like a number, right? And you have a ceiling here. That's it. I mean, I worked for 38 years and I would never made over $100,000 ever. Our GMs, you know, have potential to make 140, I think, some 150. So I knew that I wanted to pay better. I knew I wanted to treat people extremely well. And I wanted to treat them well and make them feel like they could come as they were, right? Come as you are. That's our whole motto. Come
What's
as
that
you are.
mean? Just be yourself?
Be yourself,
Got it.
right? You don't have a uniform. You're not a number. We invest in you, and you know, and we pay you extremely well. We pay you sometimes double what the rest of the industry pays. I mean, I remember when I started Condado 10 years ago, 10 years ago, I was paying $20 to kitchen guys. Why? Because I've worked in the kitchen. $13 is unacceptable, right? You have to work 2-3 jobs just to make enough. And I always knew if I paid well, treated people with respect, they would work their asses off for me. Because don't get me wrong, I expect hard work.
Yeah.
I expect hard work, but I also reward for that hard work. And so I knew, or I took the chance that if I did that, I could get more work out of somebody at $20 an hour than I could somebody at $13 an hour. In fact, some of the guys, you know, $20, $21, $22 back in the day were probably working double what anyone else, double hard meaning, than guys that, you know, I remember working with that were making $13. You just don't care.
Yeah.
You're not bought into the place, right? So the culture is a very big thing for me. Come as you are, be yourself,
Yeah.
work hard, and buy in. Once you're bought in, then I'm going to give you the opportunity. That's when the opportunity starts coming, right? And that's why we still have, I think, 10 of the original OGs within the first year are still with us, and they're all like in the C-suite or in a big management position somewhere. Like Chris Mendoza, who's been with us day one. He was a bartender. He was my first manager, and now he's in the marketing department. He's the head of I forgot his exact title. It's too early. I'm blanking. Trey Keith Santa Maria, who worked with me in the innovation kitchen. He was the first guy that listened to me in the kitchen because I would yell a lot back then, you know, to get people to be like, this is the system. Let's do the system. We got to do the system. You know, the calling out and talking. And when people didn't do that, you know, I would obviously get angrier and angrier. And he was the first guy that basically told everybody in the kitchen, hey, listen, shut up. Listen to him. This is right. This is what we're going to do. And so I finally got the buy-in from everybody because they respected Trey even more than me, the guy that had just started, because he was one of them.
Right.
Not the owner, who everybody thought I had millions of dollars back then. Little did they know I would wake up at, you know, I'd finish work at, you know, 11 or midnight, and then I would, you know, go to sleep and then wake up at 4 in the morning to see if I bounced anything, because, you know,
Jeez.
yeah. You know, oh, am I making payroll? Am I making payroll?
Yeah.
Am I making the vendors? Oh, barely made it, right? And then I'd go back to work at 7 a.m. They didn't know that. They just thought I was some rich guy that could own his own restaurant, right? Even though I wasn't really making
And this
a
was at
salary.
the first one, right?
Yeah, I was paying myself. I was doing prep and working the line until the nighttime, and then I'd go work behind the bar to supplement my income. So, but yeah, that was the first one. Yeah.
And that was in Columbus, correct?
Yeah, correct.
How many are in Columbus now?
Gosh, how many are in Columbus? 6 or 7, I
Got
think. Yeah.
Awesome. And so you went from that one restaurant. How long did it take before you opened up the second?
It took about 14 months, which was the
Oh,
exact.
that's fast.
Yeah, well, yeah, right. For the restaurant industry, you're
Yeah.
right. It is. We, you know, it was very hard. I shut the restaurant down many, many times. It was not a fun journey. You know, I even remember, you know, people going, I just can't make it here. There's not enough money. You know, I can't wait tables for you or bartend. There's just not enough. And, you know, so yeah, it was very tough. And then you get into the, you know, I remember hitting 26,000, I think is what we were averaging a week. And then about 7 months in, I started seeing the turn a little bit. We went up to like 32, 35, 37. And I'm like, great, we're on our way to 50,000 a week. We've made it at 50,000 because that's everything that I did at the previous one. So that's the only gauge that I had. And then I hired this guy, this day one guy. He's not with us right now, but he accomplished a lot for the company. And he ended up being my director of ops. And him and I and a few other people like Jan and that, you know, is our culinary basically director. He runs our commissary, and we can talk about that if you'd like. Him, Johnny, myself, basically the three-headed monster. We put our heads down and really kind of made this company go boom. But I finally had the trust and the buy-in on that part as well when I hired that first guy. And about a year into it, we hit $50,000.
Nice.
I'm like, great. This is it. Partners, we're all happy. And literally Cinco de Mayo came the next year. So that's whatever, May. So January. So maybe it was 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 months, between 14 and 16 months. And I remember we went out, got more chairs for the restaurant, and I was still buying stuff like on consignment or whatever because I was always very cheap because I always knew it could go boom at any second. And I remember Johnny looking at me and going, "We're going to do $100,000. Going forward, we're going to do $100,000
A week.
a week." I go, "Dude, that would be really nice. Here's what I'm going to do." I called the partners. I go, "I think he's serious. Like, I don't quite see it, but I think I do." Like, he jammed so many more tables and chairs and sped up service. And I'm like, "Okay, it's coming. It's coming." And literally we went from 50 to like $100,000
Wow.
a
My
week.
goodness.
We opened up the patio outside. That gave us another
Was this at your
50
original
seats.
location?
Yeah.
Yeah. So is that where you're still testing things out? Changes? and
No, no. That's in our innovation kitchen.
Just
which is,
innovation, yeah,
Just
okay.
we have a separate innovation kitchen in Westerville, I think. But he was right, and we just never looked back after that. Me and the partners decided that, the partners decided that we would open a second one, and we would do it as soon as we could. So 2 years later, we opened the second one, which was in the Commons down there. I didn't quite have the money because we didn't distribute profits yet. So I took out more loans at, I think it was 6%, which back then was rough.
Yeah.
Now you look at 6%, you
Yeah.
go, okay, maybe, maybe. I carried those until I sold the company, so it was year over year.
Wow.
But it was all worth it. That was the only loan we ever took out from my partners to us, the business. Everything else was self-sufficient.
Yeah.
Going through, we started getting so much momentum that it was just like kind of paying for itself. Everything was paying for itself.
Yeah, and I think one thing I want to note here and talk about is your title is Chief Innovation Officer, and
Yeah.
you're the founder.
Yeah.
I think that's a statement for the founder to be a CIO. It shows how much emphasis you put on creativity
Yes.
and people.
Yes.
And like that's a big statement. Instead of you being like the CEO, I actually saw you just outsource that. I don't know when that was, or got a new CEO. Is that right?
Yeah, we got very lucky, and we got the on his way to be number one, but was number two at Portillo's. He came from McDonald's and Starbucks, Derek Pratt, and in the industry, if you got him,
He knows a
you're
thing
doing-
about scaling.
Oh, he sure does.
Wow.
So, but I was CEO at the same time for years until private equity. I had a president under me that helped me run it because, quite honestly, the business started outgrowing me, and I needed to. I always hired better than myself. Of course, everybody does. You hire better than yourself. That's something else that I've learned from my past, from getting fired so many times. In the past, I always wanted to hire people that were under me so that they didn't get noticed. At the end of the day, that never works out for you. One person can't do everything, and one person only has one mind. That's why we adopt this. Everybody has an opinion. Everybody can say something in this company. Anybody who can build a better mousetrap, I will look into it, and if it fits better, I will adopt it into our strategy.
So you said you attracted the best guy in the industry in your mind. Because it's not just like a gimme, like this guy's going to come to me if I offer him this. Like, what does that pitch look like? Because he doesn't want to come to something and have his name on something that isn't going to work.
Right.
What does that pitch look like? What kind of got him to come to Condado's?
Well, again, I had a lot of help, private equity now, and we did a big search, and we asked for the best of the best. And I think what attracted him to this, if he was here, he'd probably say the same thing, is there's nothing like us, honestly. There's nothing that is casual that's fast casual. We can be fast casual because we're so quick, sometimes a little too quick. But you can also sit down and have a good time. I mean, this concept was started to be, almost like a bar. We do 40% alcohol for a reason. We want you to sit and have some tacos and have a couple margaritas or have a couple beers or have a tequila. We want that. We encourage you. We want to see you a couple times a week. We don't want to see you once every 6 months. So I think what attracted him was you don't have 40% beverage in this industry, really. That. And then the food, obviously, and then the ambiance. And we're just so different. They call us next gen. Nobody knows what next gen is.
Right.
But I believe what next gen is you have an experience at an affordable price, and quick if you need it to be quick.
Yeah.
Because we match your speed. Or if you want to hang out, you hang out. So
Yeah.
I think that's what attracted him to us. And also, we would like to go public one day.
Yeah.
So I think that is what we're
Very cool.
kind of building and trying to do. And it's not going to be easy because that never is. I love Condado. So I want to take this as far as I can get it and build it as big, on the principle of we do it for our people.
Yeah.
Is that what drives you? Like in your bio, it said 100 stores by 2026. We're now in almost 2025. And how many do you have?
We have 52. We're probably not going to make 100 because we stopped growth last year a little bit, and we changed leaders in our real estate. So we're kind of switching strategy. And then this year, we're only going to do, I think, 4.
2025.
Yeah, 2025. But then we're scaling back up to our 10 to 12. We had to slow it down a little bit. And sometimes in this business, you have to, well, at least us, we are going back to the basics because I think things got too fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And everybody focused on off-premise and catering, which is exactly what we did. And then we forgot about our guest. And then our guest, is frustrated through the
Yeah.
pandemic, and we have a whole new workforce. So we are taking this year and only doing 4 so we can go back to our basics
Yeah.
of what we were founded. Because you know what our guests told us after a while, we were booming. We grew by 40%.
Wow.
During the pandemic for the first 2 years. That's crazy growth.
Wow.
Crazy growth. Not sustainable and unsustainable. And we found that out. We found that, 10% of our guests were like, I'm not coming here. These are loyalists. And we're like, what's happening? They're like, you raised your prices, right?
Yeah.
And the service isn't quite as focused, and you're so fast that I can't even order a second drink. Like, this is not what I want. And so we heard them loud and clear. And we said, okay, it's time to go back to basics. And that's what Starbucks is doing and everybody else. We're about 7 months into it now. And it's really going well. It's setting us up because the restaurant industry was in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
And possibly could be still if people don't focus on the basics.
Yeah.
Why people come here.
Yeah.
Why do you come here, right? You're not a number. We don't want to treat you like a number. And that's what a lot of people in this industry have been doing for the last couple of years because we've had to. We haven't had the help. People are job hopping. There's free money out there. All the things that are happening in this environment.
How hard is that to pivot when you're pivoting? You're not pivoting one store. You're pivoting like we need to all be on the same page at all 50 stores.
Massive.
Yeah.
It is a massive thing. It starts with the entire company getting behind you. It goes into everything, guys. It's a massive undertaking, and there's a lot of transition and transitioning people that don't want to move to that, going back to the basics of what we used to do. But it's massive, and you have to get the entire company on board, and that has to be your focus each and every single day. And that's what it is. All our pre-shifts are all about that. Different subject every week, going back to the basics. Why do we need to greet our guests? Well, because they pay their money,
Yeah.
a lot of money, and it's not fair to them to stand up at that host stand while you're running around. Look up and say hello.
Right.
Right? Why do they come to you? It's not for just the tacos. It's because they're escaping from life. That's why you go to a restaurant, right? They want their hour of no more reality. You're here to entertain them, right? You're here to be kind to them, as long as they're kind to you, which 99% of people are. So it's massive, and there's a lot of rewards. You know, we reward 10 to 12 people $500 a month for recognition for going above and beyond. So there's a lot to this, and it's a big focus of ours. And you know what? I put my foot down, and thankfully, my new boss, I'm still the majority shareholder, but I'm not the majority. So I have the most amount of stock still at Condado. So they were on board with it too. They saw the vision that we have to go back to basics.
Yeah.
And we have to do this. And that meant a lot of things, you know, means a lot of investment in people. And, you know, it's millions of dollars that we're reinvesting back into Condado to make it work, because we see the future. We see 2025 being very bright, and then we do our growth again. But we needed to slow down. Long story short.
Yeah, and that's like what Joe, one of our mentors, always says. You have an extreme growth period.
Yep.
Then you got to flatline and analyze and see what's working, see what's not working, get your customers' feet, and then implement all that, and then another growth phase, and then kind of flatline again. That's what Joe's philosophy has always been with growth.
Restaurant industry seems so tough because like you obviously need to take customer feedback, but I don't know why I go to restaurants sometimes. Like there's some restaurants I stopped going to, and I don't know exactly why.
Subconscious.
And like, just like I didn't feel good last time I was there, whatever the situation is. And I think like keeping the ambiance and listening to your customers is like so crucial and not going out of business.
Yeah, and just treating them with respect. And the industry got so fast, the world got so fast that everybody took their eye off of that, right? And we almost had to meet the demand. But there's a time where you have to go, But yeah, I mean, sometimes you just I know if I walk into a place and somebody doesn't say hi to me within the first minute, I'm like, that's it.
Yep.
Nope.
The whole feeling of the whole atmosphere changes once you have that experience.
It starts with the person at the front door.
Yeah.
Right? Again, you're the guest, you're escaping, you're paying your hard-earned dollars.
true.
Your hard-earned dollars. To do this, your time is being spent. And if you don't greet the guest and be friendly and be remembered, there's no reason. You have to have the consistency with the food, and that's a whole other thing. I mean, I'm an obsessive compulsive, you know, especially with food, how it's prepared and how safe our food is. I mean, I'm outworldly OCD with that because I think it means so much. You have to have trusted food, and of course things happen, and hopefully it doesn't with us, knock on wood, but there's or here, wherever, but you know, I'm obsessive about consistency and food safety for sure. But then it's the tri-headed monster, you know. Then you have to be friendly and nice to your guests, right? And then you have to treat your people. There's so much to this business. I don't think I fully understood how fragile it could be until, and I've failed a lot. I've failed a ton, and I've bankrupted restaurants that I've worked at as a manager from doing dumb things. So I learned. But if I would have known that that it was this fragile, I probably would not have gone into this business when I was 16. I would have been like, that's a lot of work.
Yeah. Well, we are a little bit after 10, so I do have another question. I know we got to wrap up here, but something's driving you inside.
Yeah.
Like you have big goals, big dreams. You said you always have from a young age.
Yeah.
What is it that drives you to just keep going and going and going, even if you're financially sound and you don't need to keep going and you can hold? What is actually driving you?
Now it's about the legacy. And, you know, we do have a mission here at Condado Tacos. And I did have a mission 10 years ago and 12 years ago when I did the previous one. And that was to change the industry, right? There's no reason why a general manager who's working 50, 60, 70 hours can't make the same amount of money that a attorney who's working 50, 60, 70. You know, this is an actual profession. It's actually the second biggest industry in the world.
Wow.
Right?
Believe it.
Yeah. And we treat people like garbage. We don't pay them well. Well, I wanted to change that, and I think we've had a good start in the last 10 years, but I think there's a lot more to come. And what drives me is opportunity. We have such great opportunity at Condado. I want to look back when I'm retired, and hopefully this chain is national, and I want to look back and I want to, go, wow, I gave so many people opportunities and elevated their life, because that's what happened to me, right? I was the guy that didn't have the bank account. I was the guy that had bad credit. I was the guy that anything you say in the restaurant industry, I was a typical number one guy, right? And it doesn't have to be that way. It really doesn't. At Condado, we offer our servers, if you're full-time, a 401k. That's 4% matching, 5%, something like that. Wow. That was 10 years ago. So we're really trying to change the industry. We want people to be happy when they come to work, not have to kill themselves for nothing, no retirement, nothing. And that's what really drives me, and the opportunity that we give people. So
yeah, and it's because you experienced it before.
Yeah,
you went through the struggles.
Exactly.
You went through all the experiences, and now you're trying to.
I've had a lot of kids die on me. This industry, it's horrible. So
wow, well, it was great. Well,
sorry to leave on that note, but it's a very hard industry, and I will tell you, people need to get paid well, and that's what we do, and we give a lot of opportunity. So I'm very proud of Condado and what we do.
It's impressive. Awesome. This was a really cool story, and we appreciate you coming on. You have anything else?
Yeah,
Ron?
we could talk for hours. I appreciate it. It's cool. It's cool learning about this business for sure.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming on, Joe.
Thank you. I appreciate it, guys.
Awesome.
Very much so. Thank you.
Thank you.